to hear from a number of people that knew Rick very well, some of his friends, his colleagues, his students. Before we get underway, we are broadcasting live. This will be recorded. You will be able to review it later if you wish. It's a great thing for me to be able to introduce Dr. Tianxin Xu from Taiwan. And Dr. Xu has been a practicing idealist for many years now. He's taken the Seth materials to heart, and he's implementing a health and healing program in Taiwan. It's absolutely amazing and mind-blowing. So I had the good fortune to be able to visit Taiwan and meet with his cadre and his team and his wife and himself. I hope that you all will be able to get a chance to meet him someday, either in Taiwan or in the US or wherever you might be. So it's a real honor for me to have Dr. Xu here, and he will speak, and his wife, Cynthia, will interpret what he has to say. Take it away.
所有的朋友，大家好。
Hello, everyone.
今天非常光荣的能够在这里跟大家说几句话。
I'm very honored I can speak here.
我是在1987年的时候接触到Seth Material。
I know Seth Material in 1987.
在2007年5月的时候认识 Rick。
And in 2007, I met Rick in New York.
记得是一个阳光很灿烂的一个天气。
It's a sunny day.
本来Rick 跟他的太太 Emery 正要去度假。
I remember on that day, Rick and Emery, they planned to go to a trip on that day.
但听到有一位台湾的医生到了纽约。
And they hear about there is someone from Taiwan who studies Seth Material.
对，他就中断了他的 vacation， 然后我们就碰面了。
And they are very kind and come to see me. That is the first time we met.
当我们第一次见面的时候，就仿佛是一种灵魂上的 brother。
The first day we met is I feel like I met a spiritual family, spiritual brother.
我一辈子都在东方推广赛斯资料。
I promote the Seth Material in Eastern world in my whole life.
也知道瑞克也把他的生命奉献在西方推广赛斯资料。
And I met Rick, and I know he spent all his life to promote the Seth Material in United States.
后来在2010年的时候，我就邀请 Rick 到台湾来。
And I invite him to come to Taiwan in 2010.
是，然后也帮他出版了这一本书。
And I published one of his book, The Out of Body in 30.
Out of Body Adventures.
Yeah, in Chinese version. Yeah.
对，所以在2010年的时候邀请他到台湾来开 workshop。
In 2010, he came to Taiwan to have a workshop here.
那是一个非常奇妙的一个 meeting。
It's a wonderful trip.
后来我才知道，原来他在美国也负责赛斯书的出版。
And after that, I know that he published the Seth book in the state.
Yeah. 后来就跟瑞克有一个非常好的一个 agreement， 就是我在台湾出版了所有的 Seth Material。
And I start to publish the Seth Material since then. Yeah.
对，到目前为止，应该除了英文之外，所有赛斯资料的中文版应该是全世界最齐全的。
And in Taiwan, we have all the Seth Material published in Chinese version.
是，所以后来到2019年，瑞克也邀请我去参加美国的赛斯大会。
And in 2019, he invited me to go to New York.
对，我记得他开车带着我跟我太太在Brooklyn 跟你念书的地方是什么地方？
Columbia.
哥伦比亚附近，在那边绕。
I remember he drive the car and take us to look around in the New York City. Yeah.
并且跟我介绍说，那就是 Jane Robert 曾经住过的地方。
And introduce me the place that Jane Roberts who lived there before.
刚好那个地方也是我太太在念哥伦比亚大学的时候出没的地方。
In the Bayside at that time. Yeah. I lived there, when I study in New York. So it is a coincidence. It's
对，试着想找到一些类似像 counterpart 的一些 shared memory。
we try to find some shared memory,
like counterpart。
yeah.
Yeah， 就是让我觉得非常的感动。
And I feel kind of moved. Yeah.
是，虽然跟瑞克并没有常常见面，
I didn't have a lot of time to meet Rick.
对，但是我们就好像一个在东方，一个在西方的 brother。
But we like a brother, one who live in the Asia and one who live in America. Yeah.
所以当知道瑞克这么早离开我们的时候，其实是很难过的。
So when I know that he left so early, I feel kind of sad.
对，我记得2010年那时候邀瑞克到台湾来的时候，
I remember in 2010, I invite him to come to Taiwan at that time.
其实我那时候看到瑞克这么努力的在推广赛斯心法，其实我感动到哭出来。
I remember one time in the speech, we talk about how we promote the Seth Material, and I saw him, and I cried at that time in the speech in public. I feel so moved and touched.
我记得瑞克告诉过我，
I remember Rick told me at that time.
有非常多人接触过 Seth Material，
Many people who have read Seth Material.
但是后来很少人去提倡赛斯资料，甚至有时候就把赛斯资料当成是他自己的东西。
But few people get credit to Seth.
对，但是我跟瑞克的共通处在于，
But the common things that 我们一起，
对，就是我们两个永远都是以赛斯当我们的 spiritual 的 teacher 的，我们永远都是以赛斯当我们的灵魂的老师。
Rick and I, we both think that Seth is our only teacher.
对，我一辈子都会以 Seth 作为我的灵魂上的导师。
Seth is my only spiritual teacher.
对，我在2000年的时候有去拜访过约瑟。
I have met
Joseph
Joseph in 2000 years in New York.
是，也告诉约瑟，我一辈子都会推广赛斯资料。
And I told him that I will promote the Seth Material in my whole life.
是，那今天我们大家聚在这里来怀念 Rick。
We have today we are here to memorize the Rick.
我相信 Rick 的 spirit 一定会跟我们在一起。
I believe that Rick is being with us.
对，一定会跟着我们，只是在另外一个世界，跟我们一起来做这件有意义的事。
I believe he will promote the Seth Material in another world also.
是，那在去年11月也再次的见到 David 跟 Magera。
Last year, in November, I also see the David and Michaela.
对，所以未来我会在东方怎么样跟西方有更多的连结，然后我们一起来达到 Rick 很想要做到的。
I will think how to connect with them and promote the Seth Material together.
对，所以今天很高兴跟所有人一起来缅怀我们的好兄弟。
I'm so glad today that to have a chance to be here to memorize.
对，
Rick.
我是不会因为 Rick 死掉就放过他的。
I will not even Rick is not here in the physical world, he is still part of us.
Yeah, he is still a part of us.
Yeah.
And will help us.
He is helping us to promote the world. I will forcing him to do that.
Yeah. 我不会放过他。
Yeah, 我不知道怎么讲。
I will give up.
I won't give up. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay.
Hear from Michaela next.
Okay, everybody. Hello, and thank you so much for that, Dr. Shu. That was wonderful. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share with you the obituary that Rick's wife, Anne Marie, provided us. And let me open that and I will share that with you all. So here we go. Rick Stack was a man of enormous heart, tremendous vision, and vast organizational powers. His contributions to our world and our future are immense and immeasurable. Rick's passionate commitment to exploring, sharing, and preserving the Seth Material was profound and lifelong, beginning in the 1970s with the weekly 10-hour round trip he made to Elmira with the other New York boys to experience over 100 Seth sessions in person. Rick recorded the class sessions and transcribed them. Rick received full authorization and approval to teach the Seth materials from Jane Roberts and Robert Butts way back in the 1970s. In 1990, he went on to create the New Awareness Network to publish and preserve the Seth material. Through the New Awareness Network, previously unpublished materials were made available, such as the early sessions and the personal sessions book series, as well as his own audio recordings and transcripts of Seth class sessions. If you've taken an online Seth class or course or attended a conference in New York City, you have Rick to thank. But Rick was more than a publisher. He organized several in-person Seth conferences in New York, bringing together presenters and readers. He then adapted to the online world, creating the Seth Educational Institute, offering online courses and live webinars where students could learn and interact. Rick also spoke at international conferences and on global radio programs. An adept out-of-body practitioner, Rick wrote his own book on the subject and conducted myriad classes and workshops to help others experience it. Rick was a wise, warm, and generous teacher. He taught for over 50 years, holding live, ongoing Seth classes in New York City, online classes, and workshops. His knowledge of Seth was practically encyclopedic. He knew and loved the material deeply and studied it daily. Rick taught with great good humor, a love of humanity, and an appreciation of the challenges of physical life. He frequently reminded students that, according to Seth, we are gods in training. He continually spurred people to enlarge their concepts of themselves and to make their beliefs work for them. His kindness and patience with students of every level was inspiring to behold. With these many powerful qualities and his ongoing sense of service, Rick Stack changed many lives for the better and helped lay a path to a most fulfilling future for planet Earth. We will miss him sorely, his inimitable voice, his matter-of-fact demeanor, his big friendly grin, his willingness to explore, his rigor, and his joy in life. May we meet him gladly in our dreams. And now I am going to share a video that we put together. And give me a moment to pull that up. Here we go. And I will share that. So
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rick Stack. I was a student of Seth and Jane Roberts in the 1970s. The Seth Material, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people throughout the world, is still the clearest, most undistorted, and most comprehensive body of work available today for understanding yourself and the multidimensional universe that we all inhabit. According to Seth, you create your own reality completely and totally, and there are no accidents. Your natural state is a state of safety and grace, where all growth is effortless. You create your reality according to your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, imagination, and expectation. Thoughts and emotions, according to Seth, are the only real reality. But when you understand emotionally that you create your own reality, you can understand that all of a sudden you're living in Wonderland. Because you can actually manipulate events in your life and literally create what is your natural state, states of exuberant good health, abundance, fulfillment in all areas, and safety.
Okay, so next, I guess I can share my own story, and then we'll hear from some of our faculty here at the Seth Center. So for those of you who haven't met me yet or don't know me, I'm the new president of New Awareness Network and the Seth Center. And I've actually been working with and studying and applying the Seth materials since about, oh gosh, that's when I came across it, about 17, 18 years of age. So a really long time, let's say close to 50 years. And when I was tapped to come in and start supporting the business, I actually had, I started having meeting with Rick in the dream state. And what I want to share with you today is I'd been meeting Rick in the dream state about bringing the Seth material to a wider audience. And I actually had 2 dreams of meeting with his larger entity self after he had passed. And in those dreams, it was basically just a direct kind of transmission, being with this vast beingness that is Rick, no longer his, just personal human identity as Rick Stack. And he was sharing so much energy and support. And he just directly communicated in these dreams that he will do everything that he can to send help and energy to our efforts, and that all the things that we had planned as far as new initiatives and new programs and new platforms and just spreading the work wider, that he was just go forward with all of that, do it, go for it, everything that you have planned, go straight ahead with all of that. So I felt very reassured by that, to get such a powerful, direct communication from his larger entity self of his support, his help, and his complete 100% enthusiastic, yes, do it all. And in fact, I actually had another dream with him last night where he was being like carried by all these like friends and students. Like they had them up on his shoulders, and there was like a massive crowd of them, and they were like carrying him into some kind of restaurant for celebration. And he was looking at me with like, can you believe this? He was like, kind of like, they're doing all this. It's kind of like he was finding it sort of, he was bemused by it all. So he's like looking back at me, was like, look at all this. So that was just a little bit of my story. And, although Rick and I didn't have a like long-term close relationship, we had been, what I realized from some things that as we were working together in the last couple of months of his life, and then from the dream state, is that we actually had this long established relationship with each other, just not in waking life. So it is for me really, I experience him like, yes, he's no longer in his body, but I have a relationship with the larger entity that he is. So it's very helpful and reassuring. And then next, what I'd like to do is introduce one of our teachers here at the Seth Center, Irene O'Garden. And Irene has been friends with Rick and Anne Marie for many years. She knows Rick, or knew Rick, quite well. Irene has been studying and using the material for over 40 years, and she is also a playwright, poet, and author of several books. And so it's my pleasure and delight to introduce Irene.
Thank you so much, Michaela. Hello to everyone on this sad and also uplifting occasion. I'm going to tell you about the Rick I knew. When reflecting on Rick Stack, 2 words come to mind: magnificent difference. Rick made a magnificent difference in our world, and had he himself been any different, we would be even more bereft than we are now. I first met Rick Stack on paper, as so many of us did, in the pages of Seth Speaks and The Nature of Personal Reality. We were all inspired by the New York boys who made the 10-hour weekly round trip from New York City to Elmira to take Jane's classes and hear Seth come through. But one of the New York boys brought his tape recorder. One kept careful track of the tapes, eventually going on to have them copied and transcribed, offering us a treasure chest of over 40 recordings of Seth and Jane and class members interacting in spontaneity, puzzlement, and joy. Rick made one of my early Seth tests come true. When I finished the main body of the Seth books, I thought to myself, okay, if I create my own reality, I want more Seth books. I went to Yale and read lots of unpublished material, and then suddenly Rick made more books happen for all of us by publishing the early sessions and the personal sessions. It's hard to keep star beams out of our eyes when we meet someone who has breathed such rare air. But when I finally did meet Rick at a Seth conference, of course, I found him very down to earth. Rick was like an electrical conduit, solidly grounded in physical reality while helping to conduct the tremendous non-physical energy of Seth and Jane into usable physical experiences, whether they were books, conferences, classes, or webinars. You could almost hear the hum of him clicking away, analyzing, assessing, looking for any opportunity to expand the world's awareness of Seth. I first got to know Rick by attending his class in New York City. That was a privilege. We all admired his razor-sharp knowledge of the material and how to apply it. And he had no ego about this, by the way. He never used his personal experience of Seth and Jane and Rob to puff himself up. Any reference to being in the room where it happened was only to clarify a point or to help someone out. I was most impressed, though, by Rick's incredible patience and warmth with students. I witnessed more than one obstreperous student challenging Rick in a sometimes disturbed attitude, and Rick never lost it. He remained grounded, never cutting a student off, offering a gentle alternative viewpoint. He was open to the entire palette of human emotion. People wept in class or brought immense problems or repeated problems, and he kept an open heart and an open mind and helped people reintegrate. Or not. The disruptive students simply didn't return to class. His trust in his ability to spontaneously access an ideal Seth quote or concept continues to inspire me and my teaching. Seth talks about a newly evolving faculty combining the intellect and intuition. It was strongly developed in Rick. His brilliant and delightful wife, Anne Marie, became my literary agent, and I treasured the times we could all kick back and meet for dinner. I got to know Rick's grace under pressure when I would present at his conferences. He then hired me to create an online course based on my success using the Seth material to create a slim, healthy body. Working with Rick, you needed to be absolutely accurate. He also wanted the material to be scientifically cross-referenced. It took me a solid year of deep reading, research, and writing to get it right. But I felt I got my PhD in Seth from one of the masters, no less. Rick's generous praise for that work lives in a very special spot in my heart. It gave me the confidence to do this thing I'd never done before. He gave so many of us confidence to try new approaches, reminding us we are gods in training, and this world is one of the tougher ones. That was always a comfort. I enjoyed Rick's toothy grin, his healthy self, his terrific marriage, his acceptance of people, and the way things are while always holding out that larger vision. I'll miss our conversations. I will miss his laugh, his classes, his physical presence in our world. But while he was here, Rick made a magnificent difference.
Thank you so much for that, Irene. I appreciate you. And next, we're going to actually see a video from Glenn Payne, who's one of our other teachers, and he's a regular presenter at conferences that have been produced by the Seth Center. And he also taught the online class based on The Unknown Reality, volumes 1 and 2. And Glenn lives in Australia, so it's kind of in the middle of the night for him. So I am going to share a video that he sent. So let me get that set up for you. Okay, we're going to do that. And let's get it going. Here we go.
Hello from Australia. It's a real honour to participate in this celebration of Rick's life. I first became acquainted with Rick over a decade ago when I participated in his online intensive course. Of course, I was impressed by his profound knowledge of the Seth material, but I also gained an appreciation of his sense of humour and the warmth of his personality. During that course, I had a rather astonishing out-of-body experience, but also a very vivid dream. In the dream, Rick was driving an SUV and I was sitting next to him. We were driving through a muddy field and there was mud flying everywhere. During the class, Rick asked me to interpret the dream. And I said to him, I think it symbolises him dispelling the ignorance throughout the world with all the mud flying away, and that somehow I was helping him. The dream turned out to be rather prophetic because several years later, an Australian Seth friend, EJ Jam, and I had the idea of an online global Seth conference. We approached Rick and he said that he had exactly the same idea, and he graciously invited us to participate on the organising committee. Over that time, EJ and I gained an appreciation of Rick's attention to detail and his real commitment to spreading the Seth's wisdom throughout the world. I had the great pleasure of presenting at 4 of those online conferences, and during the last one, I had just finished the online presentation and my cell phone rang, and I thought, gee, that could have been disastrous. I'd forgotten to turn off my phone. But it was actually Rick who was phoning. He'd gone out of his way to phone me personally and to thank me for the work I'd put in and tell me how much he'd appreciated my presentation. So it was a real insight into his caring nature and his appreciation of the help that people gave him. I met Rick in person several years ago when my wife and I were visiting New York City. I caught a train out to near where his office was, and we had lunch in a nearby cafe. Of course, when two guys meet for the first time, it's always a great dilemma. Do I go the handshake or do I go the hug? It's a real question. But Rick immediately put me at ease and gave me a huge bear hug. And we really connected over lunch, went for a couple of hours, and in between us swapping ideas about how we could promote the Seth material, there was plenty of laughter. And of course, the most recent interaction I've had with Rick was when he invited me to produce and deliver an 8-week online course based on Seth's book, The Unknown Reality. I worked closely with Rick over several months, and again, his commitment to quality and preserving the integrity of the Seth material really stood out. It was a real delight working with him. I'd like to close by perhaps acknowledging some of Rick's greatest contributions. Of course, publishing the early sessions, the personal sessions, and the early class sessions has been a great contribution. I can't imagine how much work must have gone in converting those thousands of handwritten notes into such high quality books. And those early works contain some of Seth's most profound foundational material. And of course, Rick's commitment to producing so many of the Seth books in different languages is another outstanding contribution. I think we can all take inspiration from Rick's life and use it as a way of galvanizing our own personal study of the Seth material, but also as an inspiration to come together as a global Seth community. I look forward to us all carrying on Rick's great aspirations. Thank you.
Okay, that was great. And I'm just having a spontaneous impulse. You know, Seth always advised us to pay attention to those spontaneous impulses because it's been mentioned a couple times. But the book series that were published posthumously are treasure chests. Like the early sessions is actually some of the most advanced Seth material published. And the personal sessions, again, like there's just such enriched material in those. So if you haven't ever read them, I just a little shameless plug for reading those books. Okay, so next we have Virginia Bennett speaking, and Virginia again is one of our core faculty here, and she's been studying and working with the Seth material for decades as well. And Virginia is a clinical psychologist and a professor of psychology, and she specializes in hypnosis, use of altered states, and working with dreams in her practice. And she's been integrating the Seth material into her study and practice of psychology for many years. So I'm very happy to invite and introduce Virginia to speak. Thank you for being here, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Michaela. Yes, hi, everyone. This is a deep honor to be able to say something here and really recognize how much Rick gave us, and also his wife, Anne Marie. You know, I was thinking about how if it hadn't really been for him and kind of his work and their work, I think the Seth material, it would have been out there, it was published, you know, we read it, but we were often in our own kind of isolated communities around that. I think the books would have gone out of print. I think the Seth material would have become one of those kind of small, sort of esoteric spiritual groups from upper state New York, because there has been a lot of them, and somebody would write their dissertation on it, and nobody would read that. And I think it could kind of have died on the vine. And perhaps there is some probable reality where that happened, but fortunately, that's not our probable reality. And we have Rick so much to thank for that. So I never got to meet him in person, you know, probably like a lot of you, you know, we always think there's time, you know, that will be able to happen at another time, but at least on this side of the veil, it has not occurred. But he had invited me, and I spoke at one of the online Seth conferences, basically on whatever I wanted to talk about. I talked about the magical approach. And then later he invited me to teach. And I have to say, we had a number of phone calls, and I was frankly a little cautious because I have been micromanaged when I've taught before for universities, and I don't like it. And especially with the Seth material, I really wanted to make sure I had plenty of room to move and let things show up. And he repeatedly would reassure me. I mean, whenever I was on the phone and hearing his voice and it was live contact, I really was very reassured. It was always a yes. You know, you can trust this guy. I didn't doubt his integrity when it came to the Seth material, nor his experience. And I do regret that we couldn't have had, you know, some of those over a bottle of wine dinner conversations. That would have been delightful. But perhaps in my dreams, maybe following Michaela's lead, I may yet have a little more direct contact with him. So I will just, again, you know, say, honoring him. I trust that his adventures in consciousness are continuing, and perhaps that's where a number of us may meet up with him on the other side and gain further information and experience from what he's learned and what he knows and being such an excellent conduit to truly bring the Seth material into this probability and this physical reality. So I will leave it there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Virginia. And I have to say, I feel much the same way. So next we have actually another one of our teachers who we're very fortunate to have. We have such amazing teachers here, is Robert Wagner, who is prepared a video for us because he had a schedule conflict and couldn't be here. And Robert, as many of you know, is kind of a luminary in the space of dreams, lucid dreams, and he has been working with the Seth material and working with all the, especially focusing on the dream material from Seth and how to use lucid dreams and dreaming to create a more fulfilling experience of reality for yourself and everyone else. So yeah, we're delighted to have Robert be part of our faculty. So let me cue up his video for you. And one moment. Kind of had that open, but here we go. All right. Now I can just share screen and he will be with us.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to take a minute to just share a few thoughts about Rick Stack and also remember him and his passing. I think I first met Rick at the Colony Hotel near Yale University in New Haven. Some people were doing a in-person conference there, and I knew that some of the New York boys were going to speak and others. And so it was a great opportunity for the first time to meet actual Sethians. And I remember meeting Rick. He heard me talk about lucid dreaming, and he came up to me and said that, you know, maybe someday you and I could do some classes or teaching on lucid dreaming and out of bodies. And I thought, yeah, sure, why not? That sounds fun. It was probably 20 years later when that came into being. But the one thing that I think was most profound was how the Rick from that time, or around 1990, compared to the Rick of maybe 10 or 20 years later, had such a profound change. He had all this new energy, all this kind of new outlook, and all. He just was overfilling with energy and positivity and light. And so I think that's what I'll always remember the most, is how he used the Seth material, did belief work, changed things on an inner level, and became more fully his true self. So my heart goes out to Anne-Marie and all those who knew Rick. And even though we know that he carries on, I know we'll miss him here in the physical realm. So thank you, and I'm thinking of you all.
Okay, thank you, Robert. And next we have another one of our teachers is Ileana Lartigue. And Ileana is, she's been involved with the Seth material for a little over 10 years and particularly took up very much the dreaming aspect. So she's part of the teaching the dream-oriented classes in the Seth Explorer Society. And Ileana also is fully bilingual. She's a little bit trilingual, and she played a big role in our newest Spanish translation of Nature, Personal Reality. So, and yes, well, I'll just introduce her. Chris, we do have her here, right? Hopefully.
He needs to start a video.
Okay, so Ileana, start your video.
Hello.
Come join us.
Hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be here today. For me, Rick was above all my teacher with a capital T. That was like the relationship that we had. I would have followed him anywhere from the very first time he asked us to do an exercise that was to wake up after the most important dream of the night. And I was thinking to myself, yes, sure, like that's going to happen. And to my surprise, it worked. And from then on, really, I trusted him blindly and would follow his suggestions wherever he would point us to go towards. I miss him a lot. I really can't believe that he, that he has gone from this physical plane. I think that Rick was also a speaker, and as a speaker, he completely fulfilled his role in this incarnation, that is for sure. His knowledge of the material was unrivaled, and he guided us class after class through the passages of the material, through the portals, to the inner universe, and towards discovering our multidimensionality and the use of the spacious mind. He was also a bridge to Seth. He knew Seth, Jane, and Rob firsthand, and that was very palpable in class. And we got to experience the material in a unique way through his eyes. That I don't think that everyone had that opportunity. He was also a teacher for me in dreams. I had several Rick dreams. I'll mention two that were significant, or the most significant for me. In one that was 2 years ago, almost to the day, he gave me a present. He gave me a dream talisman. And I remember how happy I was that, my teacher had given me a gift. The talisman was sort of like a connecting point through which I could access my inner power. And I remember in the dream that I hugged Rick and thanked him for the gift and told him that I would treasure it forever. And I will treasure it all the more now. Second dream I had, I was 2 or 3 weeks before his death. As I don't know the exact date, I'm not quite sure. But Rick was in the cosmos. Everything was black. And it was in one of the deeper dream levels where I perceive only sort of energy forms. And Rick was singing. And he was singing in a language that I didn't understand. It was some sort of spiritual language. Maybe Samari, I don't know, but it was definitely communicating in a way that our language does not. And I remember feeling a connection, as if through that sound and through that song, he were communicating like the secrets of the cosmos somehow, as if the Seth material had come freed of the words that sort of like constrain it and was expressing freely. So that was the last lesson that I received from Rick while he was still alive, and it was in the dream state. So Rick, I miss you. I miss your voice. I miss your laughter. I miss seeing your name on the reminders in my email box. As a very, very masterful out of body traveler that you were, I'm sure that you made your transition smoothly, and that you're having all sorts of fun on the other side. Thank you so much for the richness of spirit that you shared with us, and for the adventures of the psyche that you led us through. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ileana. And next, we're going to have Angela Stallcup speak. And in addition to being quite a long-term student of the Seth material, or relatively long-term, Angela is our head of operations, and you may know her as the person when you reach out for customer service, she's the one on the other end. So I just have to take a moment to thank Angela so much for producing this event. She's put in hours to organize all of this and create this experience for the community. So I could not do what I do here without Angela. So take it away, Angela.
Thank you, Michaela. And it's just such an honor to be able to take some time today to honor the legacy of Rick as a teacher. And I've known Rick through his online classrooms. And I just thought Anne Marie's obituary really showed that Rick saw the world as a classroom. He taught students in every kind of venue that you can imagine, from a living room to a global stage, conference rooms, online rooms, videos, audio, wherever students could be found. He was reaching out to them to connect them to this material and this teaching and this philosophy that he loved and that he lived by. So it made me think about something that Seth said to Rick, and he said it to Ricky, right? In the personal sessions number 5 in December 2nd, 1978. It's also on Seth Audio. And Seth was talking about teachers and those that would follow Jane and Rob and Seth into teaching the material. And he said to Ricky and the class, "So when I say to you, let your classes thrill with quality, it is up to you to discover what quality means to you. And when I say to each of you, classes or no, that your lives be lives of quality, of beauty, and of truth, I am not about to define beauty or truth for you. That is your challenge. So you will listen to my words and read them through your interpretations, and those interpretations are highly important." And so Rick really personified that. His life thrilled with quality, his classes thrilled with quality, and we all have the gift of beauty and truth because of this work. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple of students. We could have filled this, if you're following the chat, so many people want to share, and we appreciate it. We can't be here all day. So we've got 3 students that we're going to talk to who have engaged Rick's work, either online, in person, online and in person, in a classroom, on a stage. So we're going to let you hear from those students. So we're going to start with a longtime friend of Rick and student of Seth, Tom Oliver. And so Tom Oliver is a self-made, award-winning global social entrepreneur, international author, graduate MBA professor, speaker, singer, songwriter, and philanthropist. So an all-around Renaissance guy. But really the connection, you may recognize this part, is that Tom has a foundation called the World Peace Foundation, and he produces the World Peace Festival. And Rick had a chance to speak there in Berlin, where he shared a stage with Deepak Chopra. And so not only is Tom and will be a student, but he provided a classroom for Rick. So we're going to turn it over now to Tom. And Tom, if you want to start your video, we'll hear from you.
Thanks so much. And first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who's presented here today, because it echoes so much of my experiences with Rick. I've known Rick for over 20 years. We started in the weirdest of ways. We developed our friendship first through email. I remember Anne Marie said afterwards, Tom, it's so rare for my husband to develop a friendship with somebody via email. That's literally how we started at different ends of the world. And once we finally got together and had our many meetings and our, dinners at Beckho's or in Berlin and other places or in the south of France, it was just an amazing friendship. And it's still very hard for me to process that he's no longer with us in the physical world. And over those 20 years, what impressed me so much about Rick, and I want to thank you, Rick, for all the things you've done for me, all our wonderful conversations. And Rick was a living encyclopedia of the Seth material. I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes we were on the phone, we would talk about something, and he would just pull up a quote like that, like in a second. It was amazing. We had a lot of conversations about how to make the Seth material available to a larger audience. I remember especially in the later years, the last years, we had a lot of conversations about this. I shared some of my experiences from marketing, from the business world, how to make this available to a larger audience, how to he could set up the websites and engage with people and just basically promote the material, because I think now more than ever before, it's so important for the material to get out there. And it's so fundamentally important to trigger that global paradigm shift so that we reach a critical mass of people who are on a new level of consciousness and of understanding. And I want to thank you, Rick, for your tireless dedication all those years to not only promote the Seth Material, but make it available to people in so many different shapes and forms. I want to thank you for all our conversations about lucid dreams. I remember I called you when I had my first lucid dream. I called you up. I said it was amazing. We had conversations about business, about how to create a life of abundance, how to balance the life of an entrepreneur with the life of an artist, which is very close to my heart, about probable realities, about promotion of the Seth Material, about so many different things. And I remember when Anne-Marie, when I found out that Rick had left us, it was really hard for me to take. So I actually sat down and wrote him an email with everything that I would have loved to still tell him if I had the chance to have another dinner with him at Becco's in New York and to just hang out. And I really miss you, my friend. And thank you for everything you've done and you continue to do. And I'll see you in my dreams. And thanks for everything that you've done for me, for my family, and for the countless individuals around the world who will be able to shape their lives and form their reality in a much more conscious way because of the work that you've done. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was beautiful. Beautiful. So now we're going to go to a longtime Seth reader who's attended many events with Rick in person, who's part of our online community. If you have taken a class, either an intensive class or if you're in any of the ongoing Seth classes, you're going to recognize Nancy Grady. And so we want to invite Nancy to share a little bit about her experience with Rick in all these classrooms. So take it away, Nancy.
Can you hear me? I first met Rick in conferences around the country over several decades, the last 3 decades, conferences in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. My first conference I went to, I sat with him and about 5 of his guys that were doing all the work and just talked about how he got started and how everything was working. And so it was very interesting to see him at that stage and how much he developed the courses and the business during this whole time. He was very funny and very extroverted when he was talking with everybody. But when it came to the Seth Material, he was very deeply intense and focused. It was immediately obvious that he was a very serious student of all forms of psychic knowledge. And he knew more about Seth, his books, and the ESP class audios and anything Seth did more than anybody. He was absolutely the expert on everything. He had explained to us that he had 1 million questions before he met Seth, trying to get research any way he could. And after he listened to Seth, he realized that Seth was the only one who had the answers that made complete sense to him. Every other prophet or spirit guide or medium or anyone that he had heard about fell far short of Seth's profound understanding of the universe. Rick studied every word of the Seth Material in order to get the answers to the one question that he needed personally himself to know the answer to. And that was, why are we here in this 3-dimensional reality? And how do we get out of it and progress on to other, more expansive realities? Rick got the answer to this question in Seth's second book, The Nature of Personal Reality, where Seth explained how we got here and how to get out and move on to higher realities. And here's a quote from Seth in that book. He said, "The multidimensional self cannot act within the three-dimensional reality until it materializes a portion of itself within it. That portion of itself must then propel itself from this system through another act, another actualization on the part of itself that is three-dimensional. So you get here by materializing yourself into three-dimensional reality, and then you propel yourself out of here through another actualization that is three-dimensional." And Rick understood that once we materialize ourselves as humans, it is up to us to propel ourselves out of this human mental state into what Seth called the higher intellect, or the spacious mind, by stepping outside of the official line of consciousness. So Rick discovered that Seth had identified 4 triggers that would propel our psychic selves beyond our human viewpoint into an expanded view of consciousness and a higher perspective of reality. This Rick's intensive Seth class is his life's work of studying everything that Seth did and distilling all these lessons down to understanding these 4 trigger points, these 4 trigger activities that will help us propel ourselves out of three-dimensional reality into this higher consciousness. And that is exactly what his focus was. He wanted to move on, and he wanted to help all of us move on. And so that was the one thing that he spent his greatest energy on, is figuring out how to take it to the next level, take it to the next step. And I really recognize and appreciate that he got all of that information together into this intensive class. And I think everyone who appreciates what he's done needs to take that class and really focus on what he teaches in that class.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was wonderful. And so now we're going to go to another longtime student of Seth Material, Loretta Goforth. Again, if you're in the online classes, you know her, but she was also a student in Rick's in-person class in New York City. And so Loretta's going to share an experience that she had, and it's beautiful. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Loretta.
Thank you. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, as Rick would always say at the beginning of class. I miss that voice. Some of you have heard this story, but I was encouraged to share it anyway. My most amazing experience with Rick was soon after I joined the New York class in 2016 or 2017. When I realized that I needed to begin keeping a dream journal again. A couple of weeks after this, I came across my old dream journal synchronistically, which I hadn't seen in many, many years. I kept one in 87 to 89 when I was into lucid dreaming. And I quit because I got frustrated because I would wake up as soon as I got lucid, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And there were just books on lucid dreaming to guide me. So I decided to read the old journal again for inspiration for Rick's class. And I came across a snippet, which was really interesting. I will share. I'm working with a guy, in parentheses, Rick Stack, ? On lucid dreaming. This type of dream occurs repeatedly through the night. Well, I was flabbergasted because I had read some of the Seth books in the early 70s when they first came out, and I was thunderstruck, and I always wanted to get back into them and study them more deeply, but I hadn't gotten around to it. And I had no idea who Rick Stack was. His name was not mentioned in any of the books that I read. And this was more than a decade, almost 2 decades later. And I never connected my lucid dreaming interest with the Seth material, probably because Seth never talked about lucid, he never called it lucid dreaming. So I continued reading in my journal, and a couple of months later in the journal, I came across another dream, which was much longer with Rick, which I will read that part of. So I get to the museum where Rick worked in the dream. And Rick comes and he says, "I knew you were coming." He's talking and he takes me into a big room with all these incredibly beautiful masks, which he made. There is beautiful music on in the background. The masks are huge, 3 to 4 feet, made of a brightly colored silk draped on a wooden base. They were fun. Then there was a room with colored silk sheets dividing the space up into a kind of maze, and there were people wandering around in it. It was a wonderful place. Rick had a friend with him, and he introduced him to me, and he said he also knew I was coming. Then Rick started looking into my eyes closely and put his arm around me in a warm, friendly, but platonic fashion, and continued looking into my eyes. And it was very mystical, like we were both more than one being at once. 2 different consciousnesses existed in each of us, and all 4 were somehow connecting. I remember that he was going to have a baby. His wife was pregnant. I thought how wonderful that was. I felt like I belonged in this space. The feeling was very warm and comfortable and mystical, and I experienced heightened awareness. And I remember when I woke up from this dream, I remembered, even though it was a long time ago, waking up in an altered state of consciousness as if I'd taken a psychedelic or something. And I remember the beautiful silk sheets and the masks, but for the life of me, I've never been able to conjure up the image of Rick or his friend. I don't know why. Anyway, couldn't wait to get to class to read this, and I did. And it turned out that the snippet was on my husband's birthday, 10 years before I met him. And the date of the longer dream was Rick Stack's birthday. And Rick's wife, Anne Marie, always came to class. And so Rick and Anne Marie could calculate that on that date she was pregnant, but they hadn't yet told anybody. So Rick was blown away. The whole class was blown away, including me. And he asked me to give him a copy of the dream, which I did a couple of times. He thought maybe he'd write a memoir sometime. And he was going to look in his old dream notebooks to see if he could find some kind of corresponding entries. But I don't know if he ever did. I never got a chance to, really talk to him about that. I was hoping to at some point in the future. I miss him a lot, and I'm just so grateful for all of his work and dedication over the years and all of his teachings. We're all so lucky. I can't imagine what any of our lives would be like without all of his work. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you, Loretta. And that just makes me think is that Rick stayed busy. Rick was working in the dream state. Rick, he never stopped. He never stopped. And there's the Energizer Bunny of teaching. And so what a beautiful, and just again, before I conclude my remarks, it makes me think about if you've ever used the S word with Rick, which is surprised, right? If you ever have said, "I'm so surprised that happened," what would Rick say? I'm sure you guys can hear it in your head. Well, quit being surprised. And so to hear that Loretta had already had contact with Rick years before she joined that class, I still want to go, that's a surprise, not a surprise. Let's quit being surprised, because that's the kind of things that happen. Thank you, Loretta. So now we're going to move on to David Selak. He's going to speak. I just wanted to say we have 277 people in attendance today. And so we would love, again, to hear from everybody. We can't. But if you are, a member of the Seth Explorer Society, or you're taking a class or anything like that, we have forums. Please share your stories there. And if you're not, you can send them to me, customer service at sethcenter.com, and we're compiling them. And I don't know what we're going to do with them, but we'll compile your story. So thank you, everybody. So now I'm going to hand it over to David, and he's going to share some thoughts. David, as a longtime friend of Rick, the business partner to Rick, a teacher of Seth, and really just a tremendous promoter of all things Seth Material. So David, we'll bring you up.
Beam me up. There's so much to say. I've already done a shitload of crying today, so I'm going to try to keep it together, but maybe I will and maybe I won't. Rick and I met a number of years ago, and I bothered him enough that we eventually met up for, like Glenn, we met up for lunch, and he got to know me and figured out who I was and who I wasn't. At any rate, the relationship grew from there, and I was when I took the first intensive class, which I think was the first one ever, I was like, if these people are nutcases, I'm out of here. It's just like, even though I had used the material as a touchstone. So at any rate, I was so pleased that it was so good. And if you haven't taken the class, I hope you do. Take it a few times, actually, because I don't know, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, as they say, but it's amazing what you miss, which I learned from Rick. There was a couple things I want to talk about, and he actually bothered. He bothered to go deeper. He bothered to take the risk of going online, and he didn't know what was going to happen. It could have fallen on its rear. It didn't, but taking that risk and getting all this crap organized, like, it's a big job, and he did it. Not just himself. He had a small army of friends, which he, in a friendly and also a bullying way at times, when he needed to, or when he thought he needed to, he got stuff done. And it's like, I'm amazed at what he accomplished. He's impacted so many people, and I want to tell a couple stories about Rick. It's not just the people that he taught. It's the people that those people meet, their families, their friends, and whether you realize it or not, if you read the Seth Materials and start, and begin to, as it's a DIY, you change yourself, you have an amazing impact. And he did that. He decided, stuff it, I'm going to go for it. And he did. And I'm really pleased that he did. He actually was a lot of fun. And one of the stories that I would like to tell was, some of the class members may have heard it. Maybe you haven't. So I was visiting Rick in Long Island, and oh, by the way, some of the photos that you saw where he's wearing a bicycle helmet at the beach, that's because we were bicycling to the beach, and he just didn't take it off. So didn't usually wear a helmet to the beach for some reason. But at any rate, so we're at the beach, got the lawn chairs out, having a cool drink, and watch the sunset. And I see that he's got a big backpack. And Anne Marie's next to me, and I'm going, so what's that? And Rick excused himself. He went and he put up a tent. It was like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. He was so committed to his own private spiritual practice that he put the tent up. I think he had his headphones or earmuffs, eye mask, and he was doing the sleep schedule. He was doing psi time, having a short nap. So no matter where he went, and I understand from Anne-Marie, I think he had it in his car too, just in case. So he really was devoted to the material to see where he could take it. So he bothered to do that, and he wasn't afraid of people, he didn't care what they thought. Didn't really matter. So he did live the material, and he got, in my opinion, some really amazing, results for himself. Taught himself to lucid dream, got all the books published, got these classes happening, got me on board. If you've ever had a business partner, like it's like being married without the sex. It's kind of, you can have great times, which we did, and we also fought like cats and dogs, that's just it, that's but that's okay. And I respected him a lot. He was very patient with me when I was freaking out trying to get this tech stuff happening for myself in the dream class and other ones too. We had so many conversations. I wish we could have recorded them. And I hope that you have someone who has read or is reading the materials that you can talk to, because in my opinion, it's so helpful, because you just talk at a different level. And it's not bad or worse, it's not better or worse, but in my opinion, it's a deeper level and from a different perspective. And if you're with New Awareness Network, hopefully you get a dream partner or come to the classes and, start to engage with some of your peers. I think you'll feel a load better. So, Rick, I think, brought up, he said, we're not finished products. It's like there's always stuff to learn. But I'll always remember the time, I can't remember what we were doing. We were riding bikes, and then I think we were going out. We stopped at I don't know what they call it in New York, but in my language, it's called like a county or a rural bar. Tiny little, it's a dive bar, let's put it that way, not salubrious. Anyway, we went because they were going to have karaoke night. And I thought, oh, wow, so, Rick will front up and sing a song. No way. I tried to drag him up. He just would not do it. Anne-Marie was there. No, nothing. So hopefully next lifetime he'll be performing too. But he got me up there, so I got to sing as well. So I've got so many fond memories of Rick and the times that we've had. I know you guys do too. Hope you are able to share those online up on the website. I want to thank everyone for coming and attending. It's been just a tremendous experience. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, David. So we're actually going to hear from Rick next. We wanted to share with everyone one of the guided exercises that Rick would offer at the end of the regular ongoing classes. And both Angela and I spontaneously blurted out exactly the one we wanted to use, which was like from, I think, maybe 2021, 2022. So I find that really interesting that we immediately chose the same one right away, right off the bat. And it was an exercise that he led that was based on a dream he had, a true dream from the Gates of Horn. So those of you who are longtime Seth readers know about the true dreams from the Gates of Horn. And the theme of this one is a theme that Rick over and over and over again emphasized for everyone about creating your reality of living in a safe universe, of recognizing that the universe is safe and that you can come to appreciate that truth and take that reality on for yourself. So we're going to go right into that. So you can just close your eyes and go into the exercise right now. And I don't think we've ever had this many people doing the exercise together at the same time. So I'm imagining that this could be an incredibly powerful group and individual experience for each of us. So here we go. Let me share this. Okay, wait, hold on a minute. It did the wrong thing. 1 second. Let me make sure I have this up. Okay, we do. Let's try that share again. All right, one moment. Sorry, there's a, oh, here we go. This is the one I want. Yeah, we got it.
Hit play on that one. Michaela, go ahead and start
Yes.
that again.
Okay, wait, let me stop share. Hold on. Were you not hearing that? Because it
No,
was.
we did not.
Okay, sorry guys. Let me set this up again. This is the one I want to share. Share sound. Like we tested this before. Excuse us. It is showing. All right, I'm going to try it once more and let me know that it's working. And here it goes.
No audio.
Is it going?
No audio.
All right, so I'm going to start it. I'm going to do it a different way. So bear with me. We'll just do it another way. All right. Now, Chris, just confirm that you can hear it.
Through this exercise, I want you to get a feeling or the possibility that this can be true, that you can be absolutely safe from all harm forever.
Yeah, working.
Okay, now that might mean you're going to have to work through something that is, if you're in a situation now, but by starting to imagine that state, you can start to attract it into your life. So this is a very simple exercise. So just clear your mind. Take a couple of deep breaths. Clear your mind of all worries. Don't think about any lack. Don't think about any problems. Couple of beliefs. Now, you're going to just repeat the things, okay? The statements. Take a couple more deep breaths. We'll hear more of this in the next set when we go into this session. Seth explains that you don't tell yourself that the universe is safe. You tell yourself that your universe is safe. So begin like this. Ready? You're just going to repeat this in your mind. My universe is safe. I live in a safe universe. Do that several times and allow yourself to pretend that it's true. Like believe, allow yourself to believe it. My universe is safe. I live in a safe universe. Now imagine your own inner self, your own entity connecting with you and sitting at a table with stones and putting the stones into a pattern. It could be any image you want. It could be an amorphous image of your inner self, your entity, a representative of your inner self, teacher, representative. Now imagine that those stones are put into place. And now say to yourself, my life is charmed. My life is charmed. The stones have been put into place. And I am absolutely safe from all harm forever. My life is charmed. The stones have been put into place. And imagine that happening right then. I am absolutely safe from all harm forever. Now, for a moment now, I want you to imagine and feel that that is true. That you are absolutely safe from all harm forever. That you're over the hump, so to speak, and you're still going to maybe work through some things, but you are safe. Again, my universe is safe. I live in a safe universe. My life is charmed. The stones have been put into place. I am absolutely safe from all harm forever. Okay, now I'm going to recommend that you go onto the site. And by the way, if anyone doesn't know how to get on the site, just email us. You need to know how to get on the site. Go onto the site and listen to the recording. You don't have to listen to the whole recording. Just go to just fast forward to the end and write these down. And then do it for the next 2 weeks till the next class. Now, by the way, if the
Okay, so let me come back again. So now let's just stay right in that state. And what we'd like to invite you all into is just a moment of silence, honoring Rick and letting that exercise resonate throughout your consciousness. So we all just take a moment, a minute of silence in tribute. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us in that. And we now just checking on the time. Yeah, so David will come back and then we'll play that tribute video once more. And if we have time, we also will play a section from a Sumari song. So David, if you can take us home with some closing remarks, we would love you to come back right now.
Okay, so we want to close with we're going to close with some music. And you know, Rick took his what's called a Sumari birth. I challenge you to find that. I think you'll like, if you know where it is, great. If you don't, you'll find it, or someone will help you find it. But have a look at that Sumari birth. And I appreciate everyone who came together today and joined in with us. All the effort and the background stuff, putting it all together. I thank you, everyone, for doing that. Appreciate that. Most of all, I want to thank Rick for being absolutely who he was. It was an inspiration and just a great gift for all of us. So we'll leave it. And if you'd hit the music.
Actually, we're going to be seeing the tribute video once more, and then we'll do the Samari song.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
some
No
people
worries.
may have missed that. But we're just going to play that once more, and hopefully the tech will cooperate. There we go. Okay.
You're on mute. Go ahead and take out your headphone.
Okay, it's still doing the same. Let me select that. All right, let me start that over. Here we go.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rick Stack. I was a student of Seth and Jane Roberts in the 1970s. The Seth Material, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people throughout the world, is still the clearest, most undistorted, and most comprehensive body of work available today for understanding yourself and the multidimensional universe that we all inhabit. According to Seth, you create your own reality completely and totally, and there are no accidents. Natural state is a state of safety and grace. All growth is effortless. You create your reality according to your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, imagination, and expectation. Thoughts and emotions, according to Seth, are the only real reality. And when you understand emotionally that you create your own reality, you can understand that all of a sudden you're living in Wonderland. Because you can actually manipulate events of your life and literally create what is your natural state, states of exuberance, good health, abundance, fulfillment in all areas, and safety.
And then we will leave with a section from a Sumari song. So let me share that and we'll get that going. See if I can make this work. All right. I just have to play it because it is not wanting to do what we.
Michaela, I will take care of it.
Okay.
Allow me.
All right, great. You do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone. And we'll just exit out with a Sumari song, and the replay will be sent. You'll have a link to it. And so you can watch the replay whenever and how often you like.